I didn't know before that some men don't know how to take no for an answer. I trusted a man I'd known for a little over a month and found myself on a secluded island with him. I liked Tommy, but I wasn't sure I wanted to become really close. We were dating, going to movies, walking along the waterfront, and eating at sidewalk cafes on beautiful summer evenings before my last year of university. On Friday, he invited me to the islands near our city to relax and swim. There are many beautiful islands along the coast, and the one we were going to go to was very close to our city. It was the Size Islands. Tommy rented a boat, and we went to a distant island with steep shores. It seemed the most romantic to us. The weather was perfect in the middle of July, but as soon as we sailed away from the city, my friend started behaving strangely. His politeness immediately vanished, and he started hinting at intimacy with me. Then, he bluntly told me that he was expecting it tonight. I didn't like it. I thought you were happy with the way our relationship was developing. I tried to talk calmly to Tommy. My patience is running out, the guy replied coldly. So, your patience is going to completely run out on this island. Do you really think I owe you anything? We started arguing. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and wanted to make a call. I thought that if I told someone where I was and who I was with, it would calm my friend down, but I was wrong. Tommy took my phone away and threw it in the water. At that moment, I was terrified. I really wanted him to go away and leave me alone. I was sure he would spend some time on the boat in the ocean, it would calm him down, and he would come back to the island for me. Please leave me alone right now. You should really leave, I said, hoping he would think about my words. Maybe any other guy would have calmed down, but not Tommy. He started yelling at me, humiliating me, and then he got in the boat and sailed away, leaving me alone on the island. You'll regret it, Tommy shouted as he sailed away from the shore. I was sitting on the shore for a long time, trying to calm down and figure out what to do next. Soon, I heard the sound of a boat engine. I thought it was Tommy coming back for me, so I decided to leave the shore, hide behind the bushes, and see if he had calmed down. But I was wrong. It wasn't him. There were 3 drunk guys getting off the boat. A thought popped into my head that terrified me. What if Tommy sent them here? I ran to the other side of the island, where I could see another island about 200 meters away. There was a family with children relaxing on its sandy shore. I was scared. I feared for my life. So, I entered the water in desperation and decided to swim to another island. I couldn't swim quickly to the shore. The current was carrying me away. It was very hard to swim, and I swallowed a lot of salt water. Halfway there, I saw a family packing up and leaving the island. I tried to shout and wave at them, but they didn't notice me. When I reached the shore, a big red dog ran out of the bushes and wagged her tail happily. I lay down on the grass, and the dog started running around me, looking into my eyes as if she wanted something. Where did this dog come from? Had someone forgotten this dog or purposely abandoned her on this island? The dog sniffed me and looked intently into my eyes again. I don't have anything to feed you, I said to the dog. In the bushes, I noticed a water bottle that someone left there. When I saw it, I realized that if I stayed on the island for any longer, I would inevitably face difficulties due to a lack of essentials. After getting some rest, I went to explore the island. I hoped to find something useful, but found nothing but trash left by vacationers. The sun began to set, and I heard the sound of a boat engine. In the silence, I cautiously walked to the shore, hiding behind the bushes. I saw the same drunk guys. They were coming home from the island where Tommy had left me in the afternoon. Looking at them, I heard the sound of another boat engine. This time, the boat was sailing from the city. I saw that there was only one person in it. It was probably my friend. If I'd had matches, I could have lit a fire, and he would have seen me, but I didn't have any matches. I could have shouted, but he wouldn't have heard me because of the engine noise. The boat headed for the distant island. After a while, it was heading back. I ended up alone on the island, and I realized that I would have to spend the night here. It was an experience I had never had before in my life. I brought some twigs and grass and made myself a bed out of these materials. Then, I lay down on it and looked up at the dark sky with huge glowing stars. It was very quiet on the island. I'd never heard such quiet in the city. The dog lay down too and snuggled up against me. The warmth of the dog's fur made me feel cozy and peaceful. All sorts of thoughts started popping into my head. Maybe I had done something wrong in my life since I ended up alone on this island at night. This dog also ended up alone on the island somehow. I wonder what her name is. Looking up at the dark sky, I felt calm inside. I knew that long ago, there was a nun who lived on this island, and she must have looked up at those stars too. I wondered what she was thinking then. Then, I closed my eyes and fell asleep almost immediately. That night, I saw a dream about a woman. She smiled and handed me a plastic bottle of water. "It's going to be okay," she said without opening her mouth. I woke up at sunrise. The dog was still lying next to me, snoring. When she saw me trying to get up, she barked in frustration and went back to sleep, rolling over onto the other side. I didn't know what to do. After thinking for a moment, I realized that it was Saturday, so people would definitely go to the Size Islands, most likely to the nearest island because that's where the most popular beaches were. If I want to get out of here, I need to swim to that location. I entered the water. The dog hesitantly stood on the shore, but then decided to swim after me. "Stop! Get out of the water!" I shouted, afraid the dog would drown. But she ignored the commands and started swimming toward me. We went deeper into the water and headed for another island. At first, the dog couldn't keep up with me, but then got ahead of me, looking back from time to time, showing that she was waiting for me. It took us a long time to get to the island. The dog got out of the water first and immediately ran to explore the island while I stayed on the shore to rest after a challenging swim. In the distance, I could clearly see the city, the buildings, the boat station, but I wouldn't dare swim there, at least not while there was hope that someone might rescue me. When I was young, these islands were very popular for vacation. But in the last 15 years, the boat station had dilapidated. Almost all the old boats were in bad condition, and no one wanted to buy new ones as there were almost no fish in these places. As a result, the islands became deserted. But there was a chance that some campers would show up on Saturday if the weather was good. Unfortunately, the weather turned bad. The wind began to blow hard, the sky darkened, the waves began to rage in the ocean, and it started raining. I needed to hide somewhere from the rain, so I ran deep into the island. I was lucky. I found an old, shabby abandoned house. Perhaps a nun had once lived here. After thinking for a while, I entered the house and saw a wooden bench covered with a rug. There was a cooking pan and aluminum bowls on a shelf. There was also a large box in the corner. I found 3 tin cans in it. One of them contained matches, and the other 2 were filled with rice and corn grits. At the bottom of the box, under an old blanket and yellowed newspapers, I found canned fish and a knife. I exhaled with relief, thinking that it was possible to survive on this island. There were logs, burned bricks, and leftover firewood near the house. I decided to eat something because I had not eaten anything for almost 24 hours. When the rain stopped, I took the cooking pan and went to the ocean to get water, with the dog following me. "What's your name?" I asked the dog. She wagged her tail happily and licked her nose. "Smart dog. She knows the food will be ready soon." I made a fire, put a pan on it, poured rice and canned fish into it, and started stirring with a stick. The dog and I ate rice and fish, and I felt almost happy. After that, I started washing the dishes. I picked up some grass and sand, scrubbed the pan and bowls, and rinsed them with water, just as my father had taught me as a child. For a moment, I felt like a nun, leaving my normal life behind in order to realize something important. While we were on the shore, 2 boats passed by. I waved at them, but the people in the first boat didn't even notice us, and the people in the second boat waved back at us with a smile and sailed away. Some strange circumstances brought me to a deserted island in the middle of the ocean and left me here with a dog whose name I didn't know. We sat on the shore, waiting anxiously for the sound of an engine and for the arrival of kind people who would take us home. It was warm but windy and overcast. The ocean waves were foaming near the shore. Obviously, no one would want to go to the beach in overcast, windy weather. I could only count on Tommy, but he would hardly find me here, for he had initially brought me to another island, and I found the dog on another island too, which means no one will be looking for me or the dog on this island. Suddenly, I heard the noise of an engine. The boat was heading for another island. There was a man in it. When the dog saw him, she jumped up, wagged her tail happily, and started barking loudly. The dog obviously recognized her owner. The stranger noticed us and turned the boat toward our shore, but I felt a little afraid. What if he was drunk or angry for some reason? But when I saw a happy smile on his face, I calmed down a little. The dog ran toward her owner, jumped into the boat, and started licking his face. He hugged the dog and petted her. It was clear that they really loved each other. "Hello," the stranger said, climbing out of the boat and pulling it to shore. "How did you get here?" "Luna must be on the middle island. An unexpected circumstance forced me to swim here, and the dog followed me," I replied. He looked at me in surprise and said, "Well, I was looking for a dog and found a girl. Are you alone on this island?" "Why, it's a long story," I replied, and got worried when I saw him taking his stuff out of the boat and throwing it on the grass. I noticed a tent and asked him, "Aren't you going back to the city?" "I'll definitely go back to the city, but tomorrow," he smiled. "And what are your plans?" "I don't have any plans. I want to go home, but I don't know how to get there." "Can you take me to the boat station?" "I'll pay as much as you say." The stranger looked at me intently and said, "I'll take you to the boat station, but under one condition: you have to tell me what happened to you and how you ended up here alone. I'm a very curious person. If you don't tell me everything, I won't be able to sleep," he said with a smile. "Okay, but first, can you tell me why your dog was alone on the island?" I asked cautiously. "I was on the middle island with my friends yesterday, and a child hurt his leg. He stepped on a bottle shard. We had to take him to the hospital immediately, but Luna ran away. She's very curious and independent. I called out to her, but she wouldn't answer, so I had to leave her there." "But why didn't you go back for her?" "Yesterday, we spent the night on that very island. I couldn't start the boat's engine. It's not working very well. It took me half a day to fix it. My dad had the same engine on his boat. It's a very good boat, very old." "I see. You and Luna have already made friends." "Yes, she's very nice." "They say dogs are like their masters," I said, for some reason. "Perhaps," he smiled. "Why did you come to this island?" "This island is the closest to the city. I thought if I swam to this island, someone would definitely find me and take me to the city. But it's cloudy and stormy today. I don't think anyone wants to go to the beach today. If the weather forecast is right, it won't rain today. I'll set up the tent now and take you to the city." He started pulling the tent out of its case, and I watched him intently. "You still haven't told me why you ended up here alone," he reminded me. "I had a fight with my boyfriend and asked him to leave. I expected him to come back, but circumstances forced me to swim away to the middle island." "He didn't even try to find you?" "He tried, but he couldn't find me since he didn't know I was already on another island." The stranger looked at me intently. "You're a very brave girl," he said. "I can be brave if it's necessary." "So, Luna followed you?" "Yes, because there was nothing to eat on that island." "Did you find some food here?" "We found an old abandoned house on this island. There was rice and canned fish, so we are not hungry. But I'm ashamed that I took the food without asking the owners of the house. I wanted to leave the money, but I thought someone might steal it." "You're also smart and rational," he chuckled. "Yes, I'm studying to be an economist," I replied with a smile. "May I know the name of the future economist?" "My name is Jennifer." "And my name is Jeffrey. Did you know that your name occupied an important place in past history?" "I didn't know that." "Are you a historian?" No, I'm just passionate about it, so sometimes I study past history. You have a very strange hobby. It's not strange. You have to be passionate about something in life, you know? By studying history, you can imagine how people used to live, what they achieved in life, and what they fought for. In the distance, we heard the sound of the engine and saw a boat with Tommy in it. He saw and headed toward the shore. Is that your boyfriend? Jeffrey asked. Yeah, that's him. Are you going to go to the city with him? I'm not sure, I answered hesitantly. Tommy got out of the boat and walked over to us. Interesting, he said grudgingly, looking at us. Jennifer, you're a cunning girl. Did you spend the night on the island with him tonight? Tommy asked, nodding in Jeffrey's direction. Why do you say that? I replied indignantly. I was nervous all this time, not knowing where you were or what happened to you. I tried to find you, but as I can see, there was no reason to worry. I guess you didn't really try to find her, Jeffrey said. You'd better not interfere with our conversation, Tommy said menacingly. I need to talk to my girlfriend. I'm not your girlfriend, Jennifer said confidently. Tommy walked over and took my hand roughly. Let's go home now, he said. We'll talk about it later. Luna growled at him and walked closer to me. Tommy looked at the dog in surprise, let go of my hand, and said in a softer voice, I'm sorry. I was wrong yesterday. I was nervous and didn't realize what I was doing. I forgive you, but now you should leave, I replied. I can't leave you with this guy, he continued to insist. You don't even know him at all. As it turned out, I don't know you either. Fine, do whatever you want. He walked to his boat, then turned around and shouted, You're going to regret this, Jeffrey. And I watched him sail away from the island, and when his boat was no longer visible, he said, Are we going to the city right now, or do you need time to pack? I don't have anything to pack, I replied with a smile. Luna, wait here, Jeffrey commanded. The dog looked at her master understandingly, sat down by the tent, sighed, grumbled a little, and made herself comfortable on the sand. We made it to the boat station in just a few minutes. My car is parked outside the boat station. Let me drive you home, Jeffrey offered. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. I was glad he offered that because after spending the night on the wet grass with the dog, I looked terrible. He drove me home, and we said goodbye. It was already getting dark outside. Goodbye, I said. Thank you for your help. Hug Luna for me. Good night, Jennifer. I entered my apartment, turned on the light, looked out the window, and saw his car had already pulled away from the building. So, this is it, I thought. There are still good people in this world. I wonder if Jeffrey is married. Was it his child who hurt his leg that day? I felt sad, like something wonderful could have happened in my life, but it didn't. I made myself some coffee and decided to pour a glass of red wine. What an unusual diet it was, even more unusual than the night on the island with a dog. I felt like I had gotten a few years older in those 2 days. Late in the afternoon, the doorbell of my apartment rang. Who's there? I asked as I approached the door. It's me, Tommy. Go away, open the door. I really came back for you, but I couldn't find you on the distant island, so I assumed you had left with someone since I saw one more boat there. How did you get to the nearest island? Did that man bring you there? Who is he? It doesn't matter. Go away, I won't open the door anyway. I don't trust you anymore. I went back to the kitchen, and Tommy kept ringing and knocking on the door, but I didn't react. I felt safe at home. On Sunday, I woke up with a very strange feeling in my heart. Something was drawing me back to the island, which was overgrown with weeds, bushes, and blackberries. There was a man sitting on the shore, looking into the distance, and a red dog digging in the sand in search of treasure. The desire to go back there was so strong and, at the same time, impossible and unrealistic that I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I felt very strange, like I was sleeping. I did my morning routine, but I didn't feel the freshness of the water, the softness of my clothes, or the aroma of coffee. I felt as if I were watching myself from the outside, but deep in my heart, I was somewhere else, on the sandy shore next to the blue tent. I had no specific thoughts or desires. I wandered around the apartment, touched some things, and tried to do something, but I didn't realize what I was doing. Sitting on the sofa, I wrapped myself in a blanket, and I felt like I had a fever. I kept switching TV channels and couldn't focus on any TV show. Then I threw the remote away and walked to the window, hoping to see Jeffrey's car outside. After all, he knows my address. He has to come, otherwise, I won't be able to live. In the evening, I couldn't stand it any longer, so I left the apartment and walked to the boat station. I looked at the parking lot and saw several cars, but I couldn't remember the model or color of Jeffrey's car. Yesterday, I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't care. I went to the shore. It was the only place I could be now. I didn't know where else I could go. If I had a boat, I would sail to the nearest island right away. If I could, I would walk across the water, not worrying that I could stain my white suit. I sat down on the grass. I felt nothing. I didn't wait for anyone, but it was important for me to be here. Being in this state, I observed what was happening around me. The weekend was coming to an end, and boats started to dock at the shore. People were getting out of them and pulling out their stuff. Many of them looked tired because there is nothing more exhausting than spending time under the hot sun. At some point, I began to think about my life and stopped hearing what was going on around me. I came to my senses with a jolt. Luna ran up to me and poked her wet nose into my leg, looked into my eyes, and wagged her tail happily. I looked around and saw Jeffrey's boat docked nearby. He looked at us and came over. "What are you doing here?" he said in surprise. "I was walking around the city, and I wanted to give you money for driving me home yesterday. I wasn't ready to confess to a man that I liked him. What if he rejected me? How would I get over it?" Then he sat down next to me and said, "To be honest, I've been thinking about you too. I wanted to meet you, really. So, I shouldn't have come here. I should have just waited for you at home. No, I'm glad you came here. I'm not sure if I would have dared to come to you or not. Was it your child who hurt his leg that day?" I asked, but seeing his confused look, I added, "There, on the island. No, it's my friend's child. I'm not married, if that's what you mean. I realize I shouldn't have come here. It's not right, but I don't care. No one knows what is right or what is wrong." "I'm glad you came," Jeffrey said with a smile. "I didn't think I'd see you here. I just couldn't stay home." "That's okay. How did you spend the day?" "My day was very strange. My mind was like a fog. All I wanted to do was go back to the island. I found this on the island," Jeffrey said, holding something out to me in the palm of his hand. Taking it in my hands, I saw a small locket with an icon of some saint woman on it. That locket seemed antique. "Do you think it's made of silver?" "Yes, it definitely looks antique." "Do you think it's made of silver?" "Yes, it definitely looks like silver. I suppose a nun who lived on the island wore this locket." "Where did you find it?" "No, on the shore, in the sand. Luna accidentally found it. The icon was on a rope, but it rotted, and I threw it away. I'll clean it, and it will look much better. So, you can wear it. Will I see you again?" I asked with hope. "I hope we will never part again. Do you agree?" He didn't wait for my answer. He knew I would agree, and I didn't answer anything. I only held out my hand with the locket. He took my hand and never let it go again. We were sitting on the ocean shore, looking at the Size Island. When I found the icon, I immediately realized that our meeting was no coincidence, that we would be together. Is such a thing even possible? "Everything is possible in life," he replied with a smile. "Shall we go home? Luna is very tired. Let's go." We got up from the sand, grabbed our stuff from the boat, and walked to his car. People encounter each other in different ways. You never know where you will lose and where you will find your happiness. Perhaps we were destined to meet on this island and become closer forever. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.